Alright, I am back with another video, and today we are doing a rather interesting build. It's been a while since I've done a build that features two characters, or as I'm titling it, a duo build. But I decided to go for something a little bit interesting this weekend because I am building Devola and Popola from the Nier franchise of games. And I'm not going for a specific version of these characters because they appear in both Nier Replicant and Nier Automata, but I've decided to combine elements of both of them to create new versions that fit into the world of Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I am a huge fan of the Nier franchise. I have played both Replicant, the re-release version, and Automata to completion, getting all endings and such like that, so I feel fairly knowledgeable about these characters, although I will admit that they're kind of abilities are a little bit tricky to replicate in Baldur's Gate, so I decided to go for some general theming, and these two builds are meant to work together. So you definitely kind of want to run these two together to get the most out of them, and I think you'll be quite impressed with what I've managed to come up with. Now, I'm doing this video a little bit differently than usual. As you can see, I've not started out in the character creation screen. That's because since I'm showing off two builds here, I didn't exactly want to take forever going through each and every single aspect of both builds, so I'm just going to kind of go over the levels and the equipment and what I wanted to get out of all of it combined. So I'm only going to be focusing on the key things that make these builds what they are, rather than just going over every single little detail. So while this is a build video in, the usual sense, it's not presented quite the same. So regardless, I hope you enjoy, and if this new style works out and kind of helps with shorter videos, maybe I'll switch to this style from here on out. But let's get into the build. First off, we have, if I just, there we go. You may notice that the sound effects are going to be a bit weird. I kind of want, the background music for this video to kind of be prominent and, the characters are actually singing it, so I hope that came across. Anyway, let's start off with Devola. Devola is a level 6 Warlock, level 6 Monk. This is going to seem really strange, but hear me out. Basically, the reason I decided I wanted to go with Warlock for Devola was for a few reasons. A, being able to get a huge attacking, stat on our main weapon with Pact of the Blade. Also, I knew because I'm building a Nier character, this is an action game series, I wanted to have a lot of attacks. So mixing extra attack with Pact of the Blade extras attack to get 3 attacks per turn was a big deal. But I could have done this with something like Paladin or Fight or anything. Why Monk? Well, another big part of Nier kind of gameplay is extremely fast movement, with both ground combos, air combos, and being able to shoot projectiles as you do so. So I kind of wanted to capture that here. By going Monk, we're getting a few things. Number one, we're getting unarmored movement and unarmored defense and all that good stuff, so we can wear lighter armor without needing to invest it too much in trying to get our AC up. You know what I mean. So going this route as well means if we're going open hand, we can get bonus action attacks as well. And with something like Wholeness of Body, we can get an extra bonus action to do even more. And with Warlock as well, we're going to be getting things like Eldritch Blast to be able to get those dark magic projectiles that both Devola and Popola used in Nier Replicant, as well as some darker themed spells such as Arms of Hadar and Hunger of Hadar to kind of get that dark magic feel. Because in Nier Replicant, Devola and Popola were able to use similar abilities to the protagonist, so I kind of tried to get a few of them between the two. Not 100 replicating, I guess, pun not intended, their abilities from, that game, but I did want to, kind of basically get a lot of attacks and a lot of kind of blaster spells on both builds, and I think I've done that quite well. And the way I've kind of, separated these two builds is Devola is going to be more of a melee fighter, and Popola is going to be more of a caster, which again kind of reflects how they acted in Replicant. So I feel like it works out overall for Devola to kind of be a melee fighter with a little bit of magic blasting through Eldritch Blast. So with the extra attack from Monk and the extra attack from Warlock, we're going to be getting 1 attack with an action, 2 extra attacks, and then also up to 2 bonus action attacks, because in case you're not sure, when you bind a packed weapon, you do become proficient with it, and this does count towards, monk. It becomes a monk weapon. So bound pact weapons from the Warlock feature do become monk weapons, so we are going to be getting all of those monk weapon benefits. Now, let's get into some of the other stuff we've kind of got here that I wanted. If we kind of scroll down, if we go level 6 of Open Hand Monk, we'd be able to get Manifestation of Body, being able to do extra necrotic damage on our unarmed strikes. Yes, with our stats, our strength is a little bit lower, but I have also grabbed the Tavern Brawler feat in order to bump this up to an even number, because the way the stats were kind of laid out, we had odd numbers, which allowed me to get a, even though we're not getting like the D8 of damage die on our unarmed strikes, we're still going to be adding our strength modifier twice, and that is going to make up for that. Even though we're not building a 100% optimized monk here, we're still going to be getting a ton of damage on those bonus attack unarmed strikes, meaning that we're going to be able to, you know, swing our sword, kick, punch, do all sorts of cool things that are going to feel like Nier combat, especially like Automata, because that had like an unarmed moveset as well. So yeah, stuff like this. So basically, the main thing I wanted for Devola was as many attacks as possible, both with our action and our bonus action, and the ability to cast Eldritch Blast, which we got. And I went with level 6 of Warlock to get Misty Escape as well, because both Devola and Popola do teleport around, so it made sense to kind of grab them. Another thing I did go out of my way to grab for Devola was musical instrument proficiency from Alfira in the Druid's Grove, you know, so we could play the lute, which she does in-game. And yeah, I don't believe there's anything else I necessarily need to point out here. So let's get into the equipment, and at the very end, I'll just kind of show you what the starting stats look. Actually, no, I'll do that now. Sorry, this is a highly experimental form of content. I'm going to be a bit all over the place. But if I quickly just go into the respec menu, you'll see that my ability scores are like this to start. A 13 in strength with our +1 being there, so a 12 base, 10 dexterity, 14 Constitution, 14 Wisdom, and 16 Charisma. Basically, we only need our Wisdom for our unarmored defense, but some of our open hand monk stuff will work off of this, so it's worth grabbing. 10 Dexterity is just because we're going to be using the Gloves of Dexterity. Constitution, I would like this to be higher, but we don't need it as much, and 14 is a decent number. As I said, we're going to be using Tavern Brawler to bump this 13 up to a 14 and get those decent strength modifiers, and Charisma at 16 because it is our main attacking and spellcasting modifier. As for our skill proficiencies, I did actually go for Deception and Intimidation because, well, if you know, you know. And we also get Stealth because these are wood elves, simply for like the face. You can't really see the ears behind the hair anyway. And we get a bit of extra movement speed and stealth proficiency for free if we do, so why not? So yeah, I'm going to exit this menu because I don't want to go through the whole thing. I nearly went into my YouTube mode then. So yeah, with that, if we have a look at our spells, the spells I've chosen as well are quite specific. Like I said, I went for Arms of Hadar and Hunger of Hadar for Dark Magic. But I also wanted Hex because, again, we're not going to really be concentrating with this build. So just getting that extra free necrotic damage, I should say, for basically nothing is super, super good. And we're also going to get things like Darkness and Misty Step and Mirror Image to be able to bump up our defenses and maneuverability even more. And we can even take the Devil's Sight Invocation, which I have, to get that Darkness, you know, kind of Devil Sight combo going if you really wanted to go ham. I've also thrown Armour of Agathis on there if you want a bit of extra temporary HP and some cold damage retaliation. But of course the main things are our monk abilities where we're getting the Flurry of Blows stuff, and of course with our passives we get that, you know, Manifestation of Body. Now let's get into the equipment and such as well. So, this is going to be a bit strange, but like kind of bear with me on this. This is a very weird build. So we've gone with Birthright. This is going to give us a +2 of Charisma up to 22. We have an 18 Charisma with all of our ability score improvements, kind of with all of our feats done. However, between Birthright and Duke Ravengard's Sword, which is going to be the main weapon you're going to want to go for once you get to Act 3, you are going to have a total of 22 because Duke Ravengard also gives a +2, so that's really, really good. And also I've decided that you should pick up the Drake Throat Glaive to buff your weapon up with lightning. In fact, if I just show that real quick... Am I not about? Why can I? Oh, because it's my packed weapon. Yeah, so what you'll have to do before you kind of bind packed weapon on Duke Ravengard's longsword is you want to cast, basically this is going to be your morning routine after each long rest. Throw your weapon on the floor, cast Draconic Elemental weapon with the Drake Throat Glaive on it, pick it up, and then bind it as your pack weapon. And I would say buff it with lightning, that feels the most thematic, but honestly, you can buff it with whatever you like. So yeah, that's going to kind of be your main strategy there, but until you get Duke Ravengard's Longsword, I find that the Knife of the Undermountain King is also going to work quite nicely. It's just going to give you a bonus to your critical hit chance, and you can reroll low damage die, and you also gain advantage on attack rolls against slightly or heavily obscure targets. It's okay, but for a +2 weapon that you can get quite early on in the game, it's absolutely worth picking up, and it looks pretty good with this build in my opinion. But I'll re-equip the main weapon for now. As for, yeah, since we're going with camp clothing here, for the record, both of these characters are wearing variants of the solemnity. I'm not even gonna fucking try. As long as you're wearing a variant of this outfit and dye it in Sinful Red on Bone White, you will be able to get the look that I kind of have here. This was the closest look I could get, like, to kind of Devola and Popola's look, because I wanted to go for something that was either kind of like a new take on their outfits from Replicant and Automata. And in Automata they have a kind of white dress on top with like red trousers, and this was kind of the best look I could kind of get towards that. I tried it with robes for like their Replicant look and it didn't really work, but I feel like this new look does work out. But since we are wearing camp clothing, we don't have to worry about our main armor fashion, so we've got the Cloak of Protection, just giving us a buff to our armor class, the Potent Robe to make our Eldritch Blasts even stronger and give us temporary hit points equal to our Charisma modifier, so we're going to be able to stay tanky, and also it gives us a +1 to our armor class as well. Considering we learned how to play an instrument from Alfira in this run, getting her robes as well feels pretty nice. We also have the Gloves of Dexterity because, like I said, we are pretty multi-ability score dependent, so just being able to set our dex to 18, again pretty early on in the game, is really good. And I went with the Boots of Speed to give us that extra bit of agility just as a bonus action. Since we're playing a Warlock, as always, I'm going with the Spellcrack's Amulet to get that spell slot restoration to effectively have an extra spell slot per long rest, which is nice. And now this is a weird one. I've kind of gone with an interesting pairing of rings across both characters. Here we have True Love's Caress. One of a magical pair of rings. This allows the wearer to receive Warding Bond from a creature wearing the matching ring. Popola is wearing that ring. With this, you gain Warding Bond. So with this now, Popola can cast Warding Bond on Devola, which means that Devola is going to have resistance to all damage, making her super tanky, gain a bonus to armor class and saving throws, and each time, but with the caveat that each time Devola takes damage, Popola is also going to take that damage, but we have ways to mitigate this. But it doesn't require concentration, and it lasts until a long rest, so you can just cast this at the start of the day and it's good to go. And it felt really, really cool to have this ability that synergizes between the two characters, so that it actually feels like they genuinely are connected. Because in Nier Replicant, I guess spoilers, in their boss fight they actually share a health bar, so it makes sense. I've actually gone for a proper game mechanic here. The other ring is the ring After Death Do Us Part. When the wearer is downed, they rise once more with half their hit points restored, but are gripped by shadow possession. Now, in Replicant, basically, again, I have to spoil this, but I have to explain myself. In Replicant, Devola dies, and Popola goes into a rage as a result of this, so really Popola should be the one wearing this ring, but I felt that because we are a melee caster, a melee fighter, it made more sense to be able to kind of resurrect, because what Shadow Possession does is it causes you to attack go crazy and attack the nearest creature, dealing extra necrotic damage. So I think it made more sense mechanically rather than thematically to have Popola wear this ring, meaning that if she, even despite her tankiness, even if she does go down, she's just going to get back up and keep swinging, although you will lose control of her, but that's okay because Popola, with her playstyle, should be further in the back. But yeah, that is the overall equipment. Like I say, this is a kind of a weird presentation for this video, but I think you guys understand. Basically, just build a level 6 Warlock Monk mix with Open Hand, and Archfey is the kind of subclass I went for Warlock. For Misty Escape, just so we had the ability to teleport a little bit more often. But honestly, you can take any Warlock subclass, but the Fiend would honestly probably work really, really well. But yeah, just make sure that you use the stats that I showed earlier and pick up Tavern Brawler as one of your feats if you care about the unarmed strike damage quite a lot. And then obviously, with everything like that, you're just going to get the best of both worlds here. You're going to get 3 attacks, you're going to get bonus action attacks, you're going to get a ton of damage on all of them. But that's not all, because obviously this is one half of a duo build. So let's have a look at Popola next. Now, Popola is, more of a... I've kind of gone for a blaster caster here. She is a level 10 Storm Sorcerer with a dip in Wizard and a dip in Bard. Now, that's gonna seem weird, but let me explain myself. So, what I mainly wanted out of Popola was the ability to be a blaster caster at range, but also be able to buff Devola with various different buffs. Mainly haste, and I wanted them both to be able to get haste on both of them at the same time, so I needed twin haste, because in order to kind of replicate the Nier game's like kind of bullet hell aspect, where you're firing so many projectiles and the screen is just filled with them, both you and the enemy, I wanted to kind of get haste on Popola as well, so that we can cast things like Magic Missile up to 3 times per turn between, our haste and our quicken spell, and just fill the screen with magic missiles. And also the, I'll get to that in a minute. But mainly just being able to cast a ton of spells in a single turn to fill the arena with projectiles and deal a ton of damage. So the game plan for this build is going to be twin haste both you and Devola at the start of combat, allowing Devola to go absolutely crazy, getting millions of attacks in, and then you to be able to just safely blast from a distance, attacking tons of enemies or a single one multiple times. And just go bam, 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 hitting with a lot of magic missiles. But there's also a few other things I wanted from Sorcerer as well. I went Storm Sorcerer for the maneuverability because I didn't think we really needed Draconic Resilience, especially if we have Mage Armour, which you can cast on both yourself and Devola if you want to, but it's not really gonna matter. But yeah, so we basically just want to have a ton of maneuverability to be able to maneuver around the battlefield, and Storm is going to give that to us, alongside some extra lightning spells, which I feel like lightning, because these guys are technically like replicants or androids or whatever you want to call it. Lightning kind of makes sense, as well as having lightning and thunder resistance, which we get from Storm Sorcerer, whereas the only thing we'd really be getting from Draconic Resilience would be from Draconic Sorcerer, my apologies, would be a little bit of extra HP, and not needing to cast Mage Armour, which really, in my opinion, isn't worth it over the benefits we would get from Storm Sorcerer here. The other spells I've kind of chosen, there wasn't too much logic to them as far as our Sorcerer spells are concerned. I just wanted some maneuverability, so I grabbed Misty Step. I wanted Fireball for just a big damage thing, Lightning Bolt again just for big damage, Blight for big damage, and it's kind of like a darkness spell, but we also get things like Ice Storm and Thunder Wave and Cool Lightning. I also went with Cloud of Daggers for like a summon sword type thing, because that's kind of Nier-esque. But the Sorcerer stuff is very self-explanatory. You're just building this for twin haste and a fuck ton of magic missiles. That is the goal here. Alongside things like, the rest of our, like, some extra spells, like we get, like, just some general buffs, I think. Like Mirror Image, just to be able to give yourself a bit more AC and make you harder to hit, because, again, you're a bit squishy because you're a wizard. But the main thing here is the equipment, and I'm going to get into that now, although I have just realized I forgot to put the amulet on here. Maybe that would explain why my testing was a bit weird. Hold on, do you guys want to see how I get all my items? Let's do this. Here we go. I'll stop time for a moment. Pull out this, grab my... That explains why I was like, I should have an extra magic missile when I was doing my testing. That explains it. Where is it? The Psychic Spark. Where are you? Where is it? What? I'm stupid. There it is. The Psychic Spark is going to be our amulet here, because this is going to let us get an additional dart whenever we cast Magic Missile, meaning that's an extra projectile, which means even more projectiles. And let me quickly show off the rings as well, because this is the True Love's Embrace, meaning that this is what's going to allow us to cast Warding Bond on Devola, so you both need to wear the matching rings. And like I said, it felt really, like, cool to just have these two characters be so intrinsically connected that way, that these items kind of represent that. But the other ring also does, whereas Devola had After Death do us part, Popola has Till Death do us part, which is going to allow us to cast Beacon of Hope, in which your allies will regain the maximum hit points possible when healed. I would say save this for if Devola goes down, because obviously at that point you're already losing your concentration on haste, a little, or at least one of your haste targets, and then maybe kind of using this to kind of heal her back up. But I more just chose it for the theme. You can swap this one out if you want, but I quite liked one having After Death and one Till Death. As for the other levels, I shall say, because I'm all over the place, I'm sorry. We've gone with a dip of Wizard here so we can learn scrolls. Specifically, one scroll that I had in mind, that is Artistry of War. I'll have an infographic on screen now. But what it essentially is it's a more powerful version of Magic Missile. You don't get to control the amount of darts you send out, you don't get to like upcast it for more, but it does have infinitely more power than the base Magic Missile and would be what replaces it later on in the game when you get to Act 3, so we absolutely wanted Wizard to pick that up. But then why Bard? Couple of things. Number one, since both Devola and Popola are going to be taking quite a bit of damage through the warding bond kind of link, I absolutely wanted a healing option, and Bard at level 1 would give us Cure Wounds and Healing Word, meaning that we have two options for healing really easily that will scale up with our Charisma, which we're already leveling, and our, spell slots, because we're still multiclassing 4 casters, we're going to get those 4 level spell slots, which is awesome, meaning that we can heal both ourselves and Devola and keep us both in the fight for longer. And I feel like it made sense to just have a little bit of healing on this build, but also Bard would give us, instrument proficiency, meaning that we can whistle because Popola is a singer, whereas Devola plays the lute. And so with this little combination of being able to get the instrument proficiency from Alfira and being a Bard here, these guys can both perform together, which makes a ton of sense for the characters, and I didn't want to miss it. So... And we don't get too much out of going to level 11 or 12 out of Sorcerer from this build. Yes, we get an extra feat, but we don't really need it. And also, we would have, and we'd also be able to get, like, level 6 spells, but none of them I really wanted. Maybe Globe of Invulnerability. But if you pick up scrolls for level 6 spells, you can still learn them, so you're not entirely out of luck with that. So, what else did I really... Was there anything else that I really wanted from these levels? Not in particular. I just wanted a powerful charisma-based caster for Twin Haste, and then the ability to learn more spells with Wizard, and the ability to use instruments and heal with Bard. That's why I've gone with these levels. I'll quickly get into the starting stats for you, which, as you can see here... We have a 16 in Dexterity, a 14 in Constitution, a 12 in Wisdom, just because we wanted to fill some space, and a 16 in Charisma, and you're just going to use 2 ability score improvements to level Charisma up to 20 as you level. There's no extra feats involved here. And as for our, levels, we have Persuasion and Arcana, although when you go into a Bard, you can pick up Deception as well. And if you know, and if you know why we would want Deception on these characters, well, you know. Yeah, and then obviously, so that means we'll have a 20 Charisma stat total, with 18 Dexterity coming from our Armour, which I'll get to in a moment, 14 Constitution, and 17 Intelligence. So let's just get into the equipment. We're using the Warped Handband of Intellect to allow us to equip more Wizard spells. In fact, if I go to the Wizard spell book here, you can see we can equip up to 4. I have Shield already, but we can grab Longstrider, Enhanced Sleep, and Feather Fall, so we have all of our mobility options to help out both ourselves and Devola. We also... And also we can learn Artistry of War as well. We also have the... I've gone for the Cloak of the Weave here, but really you can put any cloak here. This is just going to give us a +1 bonus to spell save DCs and spell attack rolls, and would also give us Absorb Elements, allowing us to absorb elemental damage once per short rest. And you take half, so taking half damage from that elemental spell, and then dealing a 1d6 of that element on our next attack. It's just there for mainly for the first half of the passive, so you can grab whatever you like here, it really doesn't matter. I've gone for the Graceful Cloth because it's a pretty early game option. It's going to boost up our Dexterity and therefore our AC as well. And it's also going to give you advantage on Dexterity checks and give you a little bit of an increase to your jump distance as well. So it's going to feel very Nier-esque, but you can replace this with something like the Infernal Robe if you would rather just get that flat armor class buff, and also things like Fire Shield and resistance to fire damage. You can get this while still being good, just so you know. But you could also go for the Robe of the Weave when you get into Act 3. It's going to give you slightly more AC with these stats, and whenever you succeed a saving throw against a spell, you regain extra hit points, and you get the same bonus that the Cloak of the Weave gives you, so you can stack that up. But I feel like the Graceful Cloth is going to do plenty for you until you get the Robe of the Weave. I've gone with the Braces of Defense, since we are not wearing armor or holding a shield. This is going to give us a buff to our armor class. In fact, I will just cast Mage Armor. Here we go. That is going to mean we're going to have a 20 to our AC total, which is pretty good. And this is without haste. You're usually going to have haste up with both of these builds, meaning that is an extra 2 to your AC as well. And we're also going to get a small buff to our AC from the Evasive Shoes as well. Now, as for our staffs, in Act 2, you can just quickly grab the Incandescent Staff. It's one of the better staffs you're going to get, and it will let you cast Fireball, and has a +1 to range spell attacks. And if you wanted to, you could buff this with the Drakethroat Glaive as well if you want, just to give it that +1 to the attack and damage rolls, but you don't really need it. We're more using it for spell casting. And once you get into Act 3, pick up the, again, I don't even want to try, I'm going to try Mark O'Heshker. Markaheshka? We'll call it that. I've just called it the Markiplier stuff up until this point. Markaheshka. This is going to give you a +1 bonus to spell save DC and attack rolls, again, stacking with the other pieces of armor. It's going to give you Arcane Battery, meaning that your next spell does not cast a spell slot once per long or short rest. Let me just double check that. Once per long rest. Meaning that you could basically get 2 level 6 spells off for free, which is nice. You're also going to be able to buff yourself with Kareska's Favor, allowing you to basically give yourself a certain elemental buff, meaning that when you cast spells of that element, you get to add your proficiency bonus. You get a couple of extra spells as well, and you can just kind of, depending on what you choose, so play around with it. I'll have an infographic on screen here to show you exactly what that does. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else to go over with Popola, because I think that's it. Again, it's very experimental kind of presentation style for this video. I kind of wanted to make it a bit shorter and sweeter rather than going through 2 full builds. So again, with this, you are going to have, let me get the camera set up right so I can do the thingy. No, the power I think is better for the, there we go. Yeah. With this, you're going to have basically one half of your team doing a ton of damage with melee attacks, and the other doing a ton of damage with... I pressed the thingy, screw you. I'm trying to set this up while talking and it's not working. Let's try that again. There we go. Boom. So yeah, as I was saying, with both of these builds, you're going to have 2 extremely competent fighters, one being a rapid attacking melee fighter, which can still use projectiles, and the other being a buffer, a blaster caster, and an overall highly mobile mage that can get around the battlefield really easily. Between these 2 builds, you have an extremely solid playstyle. And you will probably, and I don't know why I went to the trouble of setting all that up, because I've probably got the combat footage playing at the moment. And as you can see, this combat footage is going to be a lot longer than normal, because these guys absolutely shredded everything, meaning that I was actually able to take on the 2 Cambions that spawn in the tutorial fight, take them down, and still escape with time to spare. These, I mean, obviously twin hasting and, you know, all that is a pretty common strategy, but I think mixing it with like the magic missile, just absolute bombardment, is pretty strong. And then obviously having, like, I guess, let's actually count. So you have attack, extra attack, that's 3 attacks. Then you have haste, which is all that again, so that's 6 attacks. Then up to 2 bonus attacks. So Devola is getting like 8 attacks per turn if you have Wholeness of Body up, which is freaking crazy. Like, that's amazing. And Devola herself is going to be able to, if we're focusing on Magic Missile, which I feel like we would, you're going to be able to cast that up to 3 times per turn, meaning that if you cast that at high levels, you are just spreading projectiles everywhere, which is going to be super, super fun. And I think I also unintentionally, like, just through picking, like, Shield and such, got some of the other Dark Arts, because I think some of them, like, what are they called? Sealed Verses? Yes. I got some, which is, like, their Dark Magic abilities, they're called Sealed Verses, and there was a few that, like, block projectiles, which you know, Shield would do, and, like, there's, like, one that's, like, an upgraded version of the basic shot that's, like, a Dark Lance, which I think Archistry of War covers quite nicely. And the other reason I kind of wanted Devola to be a monk is because one of her main abilities in her fight is the Dark Fist, where she kind of punches you with a big magic fist. And while we can't get a big magic fist, we can get fists, so monk also makes sense in that regard. I think I can justify pretty much any of this well, but again, I'm not trying to make, like, exactly from Replicant or exactly from Automata. I was taking elements of both to make new versions of these characters that work well in this game, and I think I did a pretty damn good job. I feel like you're going to have a lot of fun with these builds. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for me. I guess I'll get some housekeeping stuff out the way. Like I say, this is a new style of video. My thoughts were a little bit all over the place, but I think I did come out with something coherent. And even if I didn't, just look at the description. You'll be able to get the full gist of the builds. Anyway, what else is there? to talk about. So yeah, I mean, as far as how like the channel's doing, we're still pretty much on the upkeep. Like, we're gaining subscribers at a rapid rate still. We're gonna hit 2,500 soon. And I'm kind of like working through some stuff. I still kind of want to get like some like more build requests done. And I'm still working on these Final Fantasy builds that I promised a while ago, the ones that are based on the classes from 14 and 11. But they're really tricky, man. I might just end up combining, like, and tell me what you guys think of this. I might combine elements of all of the, like, kind of classes of, like, a single, kind of vocation. So, like, maybe, like, take elements from Dark Knight, Paladin, Gunbreaker, and such, and put it into one character, and, like, do that for, like, the DPSs and the healers, to kind of make, like, a light party build. So, like, you have one tank, two different types of DPS, and a healer, and kind of combine elements of all those stuff from 14, of all the classes from 14 into those roles, and just see where we go with that. That might be my plan. I mean, and I kind of like this idea of duo build. So obviously this is a duo build, right, where two characters are meant to work together in a specific way. Again, not the first time I've done this, but I would quite like to continue doing this. So if you guys have requests for, like, builds that focus on two characters, full parties are a bit much, but duo builds really do work. So if you guys have ideas for that, let me know. I'd be more than happy to take build requests for them. But this was kind of my first thing. I mean, I love the Nier series, and these two are like some of my favorite characters in those games, so I really wanted to make a build based on them, and I feel like I did a pretty good job overall. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else left for me to say, so I think I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. I really hope that was coherent. My thoughts were all over the place.
Can't even catch my breath. Light on my feet.
If this ship hits the ground, we're dead.
Can't slow down.
Come a little closer.
Here we go again.